Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. Today, we are joined by Stephanie Cotsirilos. Let me go ahead and read her bio because there's so much amazingness that y'all have to hear the whole scoop. So Stephanie's extended family's roots are in Greece, Peru, and Asia, and have shaped her journey as an author, lawyer, and performing artist. The journey began in Chicago, where she was born. Though her first language was Greek, English followed rapidly. When she was 5 and someone asked, "What's your name, little girl?" she answered, "Judy Garland." Her immigrant grandmothers were horrified. She grew up, earned degrees in comparative literature and music from Brown and Yale, and went to New York for a career on and off Broadway. To her family's relief, Stephanie returned to Yale for a law degree and joined a New York firm. She kept writing, legislative drafting, opinion pieces, strategic documents for nonprofits, poetry, fiction. As consultant and interim executive director of Portland Ballet, she returned full circle to the arts and soon after was accepted into the Writers Hotel Conference in Manhattan, joining U.S. and international peers. Stephanie is now author of the novella My Xanthi, essayist in the award-winning anthology Breaking Bread, Essays from New England on Food, Hunger, and Family, finalist in Narrative Magazine's Fall 2022 Story Contest, publication forthcoming in 2023, and published finalist in Mississippi Review's 2019 Prize in Fiction. Twice nominated for the Pushcart Prize, her work has appeared in numerous print and online venues, including McSweeney's, The New Guard, New Millennium Writings, Brilliant Flash Fiction, and various media. In 2021, she was awarded the Patrice Krant Fellowship in Residence at Storyknife's inaugural retreat for women writers in Alaska. Recently, her short story, Invasion, Day 3, was a finalist in Narrative Magazine's 2022 Fall Story Contest and will be published in May. Also in May, to celebrate the anniversary of her novella, My Xanthi, she'll launch the book's second edition with new cover art, book club questions, and wider availability through major distribution channels. That is so much to be proud of. Stephanie Cotsirilos, thank you so much for being with us. It is truly an honor to have you here.
You've made my day. This is such a pleasure to meet you both and to just to see the joy that you bring to this project. You really enjoy doing this, and that makes me happy. Thanks so much.
Well, yes, we loved your book. We loved your book so much. So we're really excited to talk to you about your book and all of the other things.
We have been so excited to talk about it, but before we do, would you just tell us a little bit about your story?
Okay. Well, the introduction that Raquel gave kind of encapsulates it. From being a little girl who really thought she could tap dance her way to the stars, to getting a little more realistic about life. But I would guess that how I came to writing at this point is something that I'd like to add to what Raquel said. We all stand on the shoulders of our forebears, right? Mm-hmm. Stand on our mother's shoulders and our father's shoulders. And I'm no exception. I had 2 grandmothers, which is not a great surprise. One of whom was illiterate. Her father in Greece forbade her from going to school or learning to read, because that's how it was in those days, in that village in Greece. My other grandmother was quite literate in Greek, but neither one of these women, again, on whose shoulders I stand, ever really mastered English to the point where they could possibly have read the book you have in your hands. It just wasn't our lingua franca.
That gives me chills.
Yeah.
Chills.
Me too. And because of them, I'm here.
Wow.
So, right?
Yes. It's big.
And I think it's so lovely that you acknowledge that, and that you aren't just, oh, I just, I got here by myself. I did it all myself. No, we all have so many people to thank that got us to where we are. So I really appreciate you doing that. That isn't lost on us.
I'm glad. So if that answers your question.
It does. What would you say your book is about?
Well, the book is, you're going to notice that there is a Greek immigrant woman who's at the core of the book. And
yes.
So there are echoes.
Yes, we loved her.
I love her too. I love her so much. I love her too. There are echoes of the women I just told you about, and echoes of other women whom I knew in my life, who are much closer to the Xanthi character. It's great to say Xanthi because most English speakers do that. You'll hear me saying Xanthi because I say it in Greek. So we're talking about the same person.
Okay, Xanthi?
Xanthi. Right. And you say the X like an X. Xanthi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Xanthi.
It's not natural for an English speaker.
Not for us, no.
No, I understand completely. And it's a book about really the triumph of the human heart amid profound adversity, which is a very general thing to say. But many of our forebears did overcome profound adversity for us to be sitting here today together. The book is about two people. It has two narrators, one of whom is an English speaker, a criminal defense lawyer, a man who introduces the book. He's modeled on somebody I know. He tells you that he's got two unexploded incendiary devices on his hands, essentially, in his life. He's got his teenage daughter in California asking him, Dad, how can you defend those people? Because he defends people accused of some hideous crimes. At the same time, what he's got in his desk drawer is a packet of letters from his departed, long dead Greek nanny, Xanthi. And that packet of letters was sent to him by her daughter, no return address, sent to him saying, I think these really should be in your hands. And he's been avoiding them for a solid year. His daughter asks him this question, and he figures, you know something? This woman, Xanthi, taught me a lot about injustice, justice, and a lot more. I better start reading these letters. So that narrator sits down all night long and reads her letters, and through them, we hear her. And she takes over the narration, and she walks us through what it was like to come to the United States, what the loss of innocence was in the 1960s, and ultimately some very grim secrets that she does not divulge until the end of the book. And when she does, we are left to consider what really happened and what justice means, if there is any, and what love and loyalty mean in the end. So that's what the book is about.
Oh, so beautiful. And love and justice, they're often incompatible, somewhat compatible. It's complicated.
Isn't it? Isn't it interesting that we're talking today after the conviction of a man in South Carolina who was convicted of murdering his wife and son?
Yeah.
And what an example of the complexities of whatever was going on there. But they are often incompatible, and sometimes they redeem one another, but not always. Not always. Love and justice. That is.
They redeem one another.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
At one point in the book, you'll notice that Nick, who is the male narrator, Nick's daughter, to whom he gives the letters in the end, says, so this is going to be about truth in your profession, or something to that effect. And he says to her, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I believe that one of the gifts he gives to his teenage daughter is to give her Xanthi's posthumous letters and to trust her, even as a 17-year-old, to be able to consider the complexities that you just raised, how twisted and related and unrelated love and justice really are. Never mind law and justice, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Another whole topic.
Oh, yes.
You just made me think so hard. What you said is exactly what those of us against the book bans are fighting so hard for.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that we must give our children the gift of our trust, we know that they are capable.
They're thinking about this stuff anyway.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They do live in the world, you know.
Right.
Yes.
They're not in some bubble someplace on planet X.
Yes.
I agree with you. And I know that one of the greatest gifts that I seemed to give my own son when he was growing up is precisely this. It was when I treated him as an adult on some difficult issue that I saw, if we were having a conflict about it, I saw his shoulders go down. I saw him ease. I saw him, we might still have been angry, but I saw him feel as though he had just been respected.
Huge.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's a phenomenal human being. You know, I'm totally biased in his favor. So you figured that one out. But yeah, he even told me one day, Mom, don't talk to me like you're giving me orders. Would you just tell me as though you respect me what's going on, what's on your mind? And I learned a lot from his request. Right. So I agree with you about the books. You know, may I add another irony here?
Of course.
Of course.
Okay. Didn't I open this session together with my grandmother being forbidden from learning to read?
Yes. Yes.
My God, you never do that to a human being. She never recovered. She was a very strong person, but she never recovered full literacy. I'm here to tell you.
Right.
For whatever her reasons.
Right.
And to tell a child, constrict yourself. Make yourself as small as I want you to be. Oh, it makes me mad. Can you tell?
Aren't we telling that to girls all over the world? I mean, even in our own neck of the woods, in some ways, we're telling that to girls still today.
No, don't let people make you small. That's a very tall order for anyone.
For
I
anyone.
always have to remember to take up space.
Yeah, always. Yeah. And for parents to honor the adult that they're trying to raise, right? I mean, you're not trying, hopefully, I mean, I don't have kids, but hopefully you're not trying to keep your kids, right? You want them to be fully actualized adults, or
no kidding.
Should.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so this makes me think about the point in the book where Xanthi speaks to Nick before she's about to head back to Greece, and she tells him the story of what happens
in Greece,
and what happened to her in Greece before she left. And you know, Nick even questions in the book, why would you tell this to a 14-year-old?
Exactly.
But she knew he could handle the information, and he needed to know. She was respecting his need to know and his ability to understand it, or to understand at least parts of it.
I agree. And he asked her, I'm not trying to be like a hard ass or anything, but he pushed her.
Yeah.
He asked her. You know, you can say that her response was respect for the fact that he asked her. And I would agree with that. It is also, it's also about living in the world the way it is. You know, if you're really going to ask me, then here you go. Here's the response. Because that is the way the world is. I'm not going to blow the secrets of Xanthi's experience in the Greek Civil War, which is the point on which the book turns. But she and other people who have lived through that, and if there is worse, because it was pretty bad what she lived through, understand that children are not spared adversity.
Right.
Let's get real.
Yes.
Right.
There are these, I'm sure you've seen them, these memes that are on Facebook and elsewhere that address, Jennifer, the effort to restrict reading and to restrict the teaching of history.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And they will have a picture of a child who was a Black child trying to get entrance into a school at a particular point in our history. And of course, what the meme will say is, if that child was strong enough to live through it, your child is strong enough to learn about it.
Yep.
And I
yes.
think right.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
really,
I have posted that same meme a
you?
number of times. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, because what people fail to acknowledge, or at least, the powers that are trying to, ban all the books and control what people are allowed to learn, what they fail to acknowledge is that the kids who lived through that weren't protected from it.
Correct.
So they lived through it. They survived in whatever manner that they survived.
Correct.
But your children can read about this and still survive.
That's right. And who knows, develop something big or bigger in themselves from knowing this. My own son, which I may or may not have mentioned, is a native Peruvian of indigenous background. My late husband and I formed our family through adoption. And so my husband is gone now. But my son is a person of color also living in this country. He doesn't talk about it exactly the way we're talking about this whole thing, but I know that it is a complete mystery to him why people would restrict knowledge and history this way. It just doesn't compute.
Because it doesn't compute.
I know. Yeah.
It's an effort to control. It's an effort to control.
To what means though? It doesn't compute.
Just control for its own sake.
Yeah,
there's
it's just ugly.
I agree. I believe, or my opinion is, that there's a lot of fear and that goes along with that, because it's fearful for people to think of a world that they didn't conceive of, or that the world is different from the way they conceived of it or would like to. There are certainly power issues, obviously. There are some sincerely held beliefs that I wish we could all talk about across this thing. I have not been in that position yet. Maybe I will be with somebody. But it's an effort, or I'm going to lose this thought if I don't try to get it back. Let's see if I can. The effort to, here it is. The effort to construct an innocence, if you will. Now, I'm laying that on other people. It's just my word, not theirs. Okay.
Fair enough.
But it's an effort to lay an innocence on one's history and on one's background is something that James Baldwin called out, right? And I'm way paraphrasing the man now, but he said, you know what? That's a problem. Your deliberate innocence is a problem. I agree with that. And I'm going to circle back to My Xanthi, because you will remember that in her letters to her daughter Kula over the course of the novella, she describes the innocence that is lost in this family, about what the American dream actually is. And she has some insights into that. They are not the core of the book, because the core of the book is something else. And I would not lay on this one character some kind of historical omniscience. That's not for her to do. But she sees that growing up in the Midwest in the 1950s, 60s, and all of those things that families like mine certainly aspired to were based on a particular version of how this country works. And it got busted up pretty overtly during that period of time. And Xanthi saw that. And you'll recall in the book, she saw, I think she witnessed the aftermath of JFK's assassination and just became stone-faced and locked herself in her room.
Yeah.
And she wondered why people were so afraid that all of these features of innocence were falling away. She said, my goodness, this family is as upset as though it were wartime here, and it's not wartime. And then she says, but she sees the young Black people getting hosed down by Bull Connors. And she says, maybe it is wartime for some people in this country.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it is.
And maybe it still is.
Yeah. A resounding yes.
Yeah.
As an ally and somebody who cares.
Yeah.
So yes, the issue of adversity really permeates the book in many respects. But what I wanted to do, among other things, was to deliver this book, if I may tell you a little more about it.
Of course,
that's why we're here, right? Okay. To deliver this book in voices that were as authentic as I could make them. It was the voices that came first for me in this book.
Fascinating.
I remember just being struck by Nick's voice. Again, somebody I'm very close to, is the genesis of much of his presence in the book. And I just heard this voice talking about certain things. I thought, I want to capture that. That'll be fun. And then it led me to her voice. I said, oh my God, I haven't heard her in a very long time. And I realized I no longer dream in Greek. I did when I was a child. When I remember dreaming in Greek, they were the most beautiful dreams. I considered it the language of unconditional love.
And why is that? I noticed that you had said something similar in the book, and I wondered about that.
Why it's the language of unconditional love?
Why do you see it that way?
Probably because it was spoken to me first before anything else. From my mother, from my father. And I particularly remember my mother's voice saying Chrysoulibu. That means my sweet one. And my grandparents addressing me with Greek endearments. So it was like somebody laying a palm on your cheek. It was so personal and beautiful.
I feel love just radiating from you right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, and hearing you talk about them, to talk about your family that way, what a gift that you got from them, and that we get to hear straight from you the love that you still carry for your family.
You'll make me cry. Thank you so much.
It's okay to cry. We cry on the show all the time.
We do.
Okay.
Especially Raquel.
We've got the tissue. We're good. That's one of the reasons I want to write, frankly, is even though my next novel is not about my family as clearly as this one is. And okay, big digression here. Even though I want to bring my love for my family forward, and it was one of the reasons I wrote this novella, no one in my family ever committed the crimes that you read about in this book. Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Time out. Got to make that real clear.
This is a work of fiction.
It is a work of fiction.
Yeah.
But it was what motivated me. So when Xanthi came forward, at first I thought of her as a person who didn't waste words. And it came across stilted at a certain point. So when I brought this piece, which originated for me as a short story, I thought maybe it would be a short story. I brought it into a workshop at the Writers' Hotel in Manhattan, something you mentioned in my bio. And everyone there, or not everyone, my workshop classmate said, this isn't a short story. You got to develop this. There's more here than you can contain in a short story. And they pushed me to consider how she really spoke. And they pushed me to consider what that relationship was between her and Nick, who became a criminal defense lawyer and whom she helped raise when Nick's mother was ill. So that pushed me to pursue the opposite with her. I decided, okay, she cannot be a person of few words. She's going to be a person of many words. She's going to, right, use all of those Greek sayings that I
love the Greek sayings.
They were so much fun.
I
remember going to Greece with my mom many years ago and speaking with people. We met there and all these conversations were in Greek. And at that time, I was good with that. Believe me, no more. But they were speaking, we were among women, and they were talking about another woman who had gained some weight.
Uh-oh.
And one woman said, "Cremunde ta creatatis." Now, you don't know what that means. I do. That means her meats were hanging. Like,
oh, no.
You know, when you if you have a lot, like my grandmother did, a lot under your arm,
yes,
that is what that meant. Nothing else could describe it as well as that saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to capture. And I decided when Xanthi spoke, she would use such sayings. And I had to research many of them because I only retained like a handful of them from my childhood. So I had to start researching what are some Greek sayings. And I had to create her letters as though they had been translated from Greek into English. Okay. This is a craft issue that I've discussed in other workshops and classes with other people as well. It is a challenge to render a character who is not a native English speaker and to do so respectfully. For me, it was easier because I had grown up with these folks for so many years. But one of the traps that you can fall into as a writer is you can give them an accent on paper. Really tricky. Really tricky because it can come across very stereotypical and cliched. And you might not mean it that way. So you will notice there is nothing in the book that suggests she's speaking to you with an accent. Did you ever?
No,
but I guess
I think in my head I heard it.
Exactly, in our heads.
Yeah.
That's great writing.
Oh, well, bless you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great writing.
You have to allow the speaker to speak as competently as she would speak in her own tongue. You really have to allow her to do that. Now, with syntax, expressions, sentence structure, which is the same as syntax, essentially, you can create a rhythm and a twist on English that makes people think, ooh, this is not a native speaker. You're right that I did slip in a few things. I did slip in some places that are meant to be comedic. You're right, I'd forgotten about that. Where she says, oh yeah, I have learned that the English, this is the word for teeth in English, teeth or teeth.
Oh yeah,
right?
You did say that.
Yeah.
Which is totally Greek accent. And remember the scene where she has been studying for the citizenship exam.
Yeah.
That one is pretty true. With Nick's grandmother, who also, English is truly a second language for her too. And the father in the family says, okay, Xanthi, how's it going studying for the citizenship exam? And she says, good. And he says, good. Who makes the laws for the United States? She has no idea what the man is saying. And the little brother, one of my brothers did this, says, stop, let me ask her. Kyria Xanthi, who make the lozi for the United States. Congress make the laws for the United States. That happened. Okay, so I claim that one. But it was astonishing that's how it worked.
But also why the test is so hard to pass.
Well, a lot of us couldn't pass it.
Right.
Yeah. Nowadays. Now, look, she really, as it was in real life, it was in the novella, she really didn't take it seriously enough, to honest to God. But it's okay. It was part of the meaning. It was part of the culture and what we grew up with, that she so wanted to be able to send back to Greece the benefits that she came over here and didn't see her people for many years for.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so huge.
If people are doing that as we sit here today.
I know.
Right?
I know.
Every day. Every day.
And sometimes children are doing that. Let's not go down that road.
Oh. Your work is a piece of activism. Yes.
Can you say more about that?
Well, in my own family, I married a Mexican man. We're divorced now, but regardless. And I watched him study for the test. I watched him work in this country in a business that was his second language and do really well, and then try to go to community college and take classes to get licensed to do the work he was already doing, but couldn't because he couldn't pass the English exam to take the class to get licensed for what he was already doing.
Wow.
It's activism because you're in a beautiful story that people would enjoy reading. The issues are very real. It's about immigration. It's about racism. It's about law and justice and these things that we don't talk about enough, and that face us all. It's about the book banning. It's about all of it. It's activism. And it's in a beautiful package that people would enjoy reading.
That's music to my ears, because I can't be writing fiction if it's not something that is deeply personal and touches the reader at some level beyond polemics. If you're going to write a polemic, you need to do something else rather than write a novella. And by the way, this is a novella because it's under a certain word count. It's in the same tradition as Breakfast at Tiffany's was a novella, for example.
Right.
The Great Gatsby is not, but it's close. Goodbye Columbus, the central piece in that volume, is a novella. So I just wanted to say that because I like the form.
I do as well, because it's digestible.
It is, and you get to the point.
Right.
I'm really happy that you said that, because what motivates me to write is a sense of activism. I think you've nailed it, Jennifer. I remember listening to Sting give a TED Talk. It got replayed. It was a 2014 TED Talk. And I was in my car thinking about something related to writing. And here comes Sting on his TED Talk, talking about the fact that he was in a kind of trough. He was in a real tough place creatively. He was kind of blocked up. And the way he got out of it was to stop writing about himself. He said, I started paying attention to the shipyard workers in England where I grew up and what their stories were.
Oh, wow.
Right? And then his creative life started to bloom again. And I thought, well, man, what good advice you just gave me.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Xanthi came from that. One of my short stories, the one that was a published finalist in the Mississippi Review's Prize in Fiction, which I was so honored to be part of, is about people different from me. And actually, they're closer to your husband's experience, Jennifer. when they
The
are
one called Little Buzzcut?
Little Buzzcut.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Okay. I started writing this story in the summer of, was it 2017 or 18? When this terrible, terrible family separation policy came to light. And it's excruciating. It's just an excruciating thing that has happened. I remember thinking I needed to write something about that. I felt that I saw my own child's face imprinted on every child who came across the border. There but for grace goes my boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started writing. I researched and researched and researched. And I thought to myself, might have been around then that I heard the sting that TED Talk. Don't really remember, but I said, yeah, I do have to write about people whose experience is different from mine. And I have to find a way to do that respectfully so that I do not, as they say, appropriate or make some kind of stupid set of assumptions, really get there.
Yeah,
in a
you
way
you want to do it in an honorable way.
Exactly.
You want to respect it.
Exactly. There's a wonderful book called Appropriate by Heather Rickvall, I think her name is, that talks about how to do this. In any event, I researched a great deal about how people have been coming across the border in Texas. And there were days when I confess to you, I just broke down and sobbed in front of my computer. Yeah. But I kept going. And I discovered that the story was going to be about a little Guatemalan boy who gets separated in McAllen, Texas from his mom, and how he somehow escapes to try to find his mom again. He escapes from the bus that's going to take him somewhere else. And that the story is also going to be about the Border Patrol agent who did this thing to him. And what happens when that man goes home to his own family and knows that he has lost a son of his own, and how that absence has never left him, and how his wife has, her life has just disintegrated, and their love has disintegrated because of this absence, and how that Border Patrol agent suffers as well. And the two characters come together in not a particularly tidy way at the end, which is fine. It can't be tidy.
Well, it isn't tidy. The whole topic is nothing tidy.
No kidding. Yeah. So I wrote them both, and they were in parallel. And I thought, whose voice can handle both of these strands of this story? How do I do that? Stephanie, can't be the omniscient person who does that. I don't have the capacity. And I don't know what happened, but I realized, well, I do know what happened. I realized to myself, if I could invent an angel to unlock those terrible places those children were in Texas, I would conjure that angel. And then a woman's voice came to me. And it was the abuela, the grandmother of the little boy. And she had been killed in Guatemala by some gangs there once they discovered the little boy and the mother had escaped. But her spirit was still near earth. And I did more research on how one honors the dead in Guatemala. I don't pretend expertise in any way on this, but she came to me, and she is the one who addresses the little boy in the second person and says, listen, this man is going to look for you. Be careful. I'm going to guide you through what's going to be happening to you. I know what's happening. I'm going to make sure that you remember who you are, because if you lose your story, they win. And I can't be here for you forever, because my spirit is going to dissipate at some point. But she walks the reader through the little boy's story, and then she is able to see the Border Patrol agent and what is happening to him and his wife. And she brings them, she prepares the little boy for their coming together at the end of the story.
Wow.
I love that. That's so
If
powerful.
someone wanted to read that, how would they get a hold of it?
Oh, great question. You go to Mississippi Review, I guess, .com. Hold on, I'm going to get a copy of the book. I'm going to show it to you.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
Okay, hold on.
Thank you. Yes.
That story.
Oh my God. Oh, that story just makes me think about how I like to think about my loved ones who are no longer here. That I like to think of them as their spirit is still here, and that not just through my memories that they live on, but the love that I felt from them and for them. Sorry.
Tears all around.
Tears all around. That their love is still here. I still feel their love. Specifically, I think about my grandmother, my mom's mom, who passed when I was 10 or just about to be 10. And I still feel her love all the time, all the time.
So wonderful. You keep her alive this way.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
This is...
Oh, sorry, that takes away from the story. Anyway, go ahead.
Not at all. These are the reasons, in my little world, from where I sit, these are the reasons to write. It's not about yourself, although you're the only vessel you have through which to tell these stories. It's about everything you just said and how we can reach across our differences to something that connects us. This is the cover of Mississippi Review's Summer 2019 edition. It's volumes 47. Now, if a reader goes to Mississippi Review, you're just going to have to look it up. I don't know if it's .com or .org. You will find a place where they actually sell prior editions.
Oh, wow.
And you will look for this. And a little buzz cut will be in this particular edition of Mississippi Review.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, we could talk forever because I didn't even get through like the first 3 to 5 questions. But
that's okay. Yeah.
Wait,
but what didn't you had something else, Raquel? I can tell.
I just have.
Go ahead.
And first off, I want to say like just 2 things. And I know you're busy, Stephanie. I'll try to keep this brief. But
it's fine. It's fine.
One is I am so grateful for the fact that you have this powerful older woman who is the center of the story. But she's described, and she comes to life in such a loving way, and there's a strength about her that is real. It isn't this, oh well, she's a superhero. No, she in a real way, yes, she is a hero, yes, because she saved her own life, and she saved her daughter, and she, not going into too much about the secret of the story, but and then she comes to a country that isn't her own and lives for a number of years caring for people she doesn't even know. First off, I want to say that because I don't want that to go unsaid. The second thing is I know what I come away from the story with, and I have an idea of what Jennifer comes away from it with. What do you, as the writer of this beautiful, amazing, so well-written story, what do you want readers to come away from it?
Oh my. Well, first, you're really touching me with your the love that you're transmitting across cyberspace toward me, both of you. I hesitate to say for anybody what they should come away with, because I know it will differ for each person. But I hope that there is something in the story that makes people say, I know what that feels like. Those are my people. That was me. I know what that feels like. And that would make me happy. Can you see, by the way, the sunshine is coming in?
It has changed.
And there's like streaks of something in this picture, but people will
It's all
forgive.
good.
Yeah, it's like
I am going to, as you said in the introduction, I'm going to re-release this book in May. It's going to be, we're entering the second year of its publication, and the second edition will come out in May. I think the artwork on the front will be very beautiful. There's a woman whose images I hope she'll allow me to use, and it will contain book club questions and an interview that kind of talks about the book itself. So if people want to, you can't get that edition yet. It's in production right now. But if people are interested and want to keep up with that, they should go to my website. And there's at the top, you'll see a menu bar like they have on websites. Go to Connect, click on that. And when you get to the Connect page, you scroll down and you can sign up for my newsletter at the bottom. And that will tell you when the book is coming out, where you can go. It's going to be distributed through major outlets. And, you can get it that way pretty easily. I just want, like many writers do, I just want the book to live on its own and to be there for whoever wants it and whoever needs it. It's an honor to be able to do that. It is an honor to be able to even attract the interest of people in what one has written. So I just deeply appreciate being here.
It's such an honor to speak to you, Stephanie, and to be in your presence and to read your words and hear the voices of all of the characters in my head, to hear their voices in the way that I imagine that you wanted them to be heard.
Glad. And I'm glad you picked up on the older woman thing. By the way, they are elder women. I wish we had a better word for that, but are thematic also across my writing.
I've been thinking about that older woman thing as I'm becoming an older woman, as my mom passed and I'm now the matriarch.
Yes,
I think it's a matriarchal thing.
Maybe
that's the word. I don't know. I've been thinking about that a lot as well.
I bet you have. I bet you have. The next book I'm writing will be a novel, and it's going to be about a very tough subject, about the death penalty.
Oh.
Yes, but it will be about three people who are drawn into a historical example of the death penalty and how they achieve transcendence in some fashion amid that very terrible and difficult situation. And 2 out of the 3 are women in their 60s. There goes Raquel. You're so wonderful. And I want that. I want those voices to be the containers in which we parse the ethical core of these kinds of issues. Yes. Women have the power to talk about this and dig deep into what this means. Again, it cannot be a polemic. It can't be just beating people over the head with what your opinion is. We are going to be walking through what it is in the human condition and in everyday life that is implicated in how we choose to punish people, and what it means to forgive, and what it means not to forgive, and what it means to maybe even let that go. But
ooh, that's big. Ooh.
So stay tuned. It's not finished yet.
I can't wait to read it.
I know. Stephanie, we're going to have you back to talk about it. Oh, I can't wait to read it.
I'll come back. I would love to.
Thank you so much. This was an amazing conversation.
It was.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
You're doing a terrific thing.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, Stephanie. Oh, I love this book. I love this book. And I love the book. And I have to say that I could listen to Stephanie talk
all day long.
All day.
Yes.
I mean, her voice in and of itself is this beautiful, soothing, but also stirring voice. And that comes through in the book. It's just, there's the talent that it takes to do that and for this to not be some heavy-handed or glitchy or hack. I mean, I am in such awe of Stephanie and her talent and the book, the beauty that comes through and the strength of the people in the book. I can't recommend this book enough. People, please buy this book. It is so worth it.
For me, Stephanie embodies the power of the feminine.
Yes.
As an activist writer.
Yes.
I don't know if I said that exactly right, but her writing is, I already said it, I'll say it again. Her writing is activism.
Yep.
In the way that is digestible, and yet one of her voices, one of her heroes in the story is the feminine power. And Stephanie herself, her family, her lineage, her coming from the grandmother who was forbidden to even read, to become such a powerful writer. This is the power of the feminine.
Yes.
And she does it so beautifully. And you're right. We could talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk because there's just so much to say. And I loved the book. I couldn't put it down. It was one of my favorite reads this year.
Yes. I just felt so connected to the characters and so emotionally tied, and the reading of the letters. Oh,
and you reminded me what I really loved, because as a parent, like struggling with that idea of a child who is questioning your integrity, at the same time knowing why you made the decisions that you made, but you also might also be questioning your integrity. Yeah. And like, that's the love and the justice, right? The love and the justice and it's just so well done. So well done.
And that he gave, I don't want to give away too much.
You can't tell the story.
I can't tell anybody. I can't say anything, but it's just,
no.
It's so beautiful. And it's so, there's so many layers to the book and all of the characters, and it's a novella and the characters were developed so well. That is talent. Wow. That takes skill. Oh, I could talk about this all day. I just feel so honored that we get to do this. Jennifer, we get to do this. We get to have these conversations with amazing people and we get to read their work, and then we get to help
talk about it. It's a joy. It's such a joy.
We help shine light on other people's work so that more people can see it. So people, read this book. It is so good. It is so
well done, Raquel. Well done.
Well done, Jennifer.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks everyone for listening today. We will be back with more Madness Cafe next week. You can find us on Instagram at Madness Cafe Podcast or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com. Bye.